Today, we dive into some intriguing drama surrounding NFL linebacker Matthew Judon and his candid reflections on his time with the Atlanta Falcons. Recently, at a charity basketball event, Judon didn't hold back when discussing his experience under former defensive coordinator Jimmy Lake. He made a striking statement about Lake's defensive strategies, saying, "Hell no, it wasn't bad luck. If you go look at the film, I dropped into coverage on 60% of the plays. It's hard to get a pick and a sack on the same play." Now, let's unpack that. Judon's assertion raises eyebrows for a couple of reasons. First, he's absolutely right. It's incredibly challenging, some might say nearly impossible, to achieve both an interception and a sack on the same play. But then we have to consider the second part of his claim. Is he exaggerating about his coverage responsibilities? While I don't expect players to memorize their coverage alignments down to the last percentage point, I took a closer look at the numbers from Pro Football Focus. Judon logged a total of 655 snaps last season, with 328 of those dedicated to pass rushing, about 50% of his time on the field. That's a staggering figure, and it raises questions about the effectiveness of his role. Now, let's be fair. Jimmy Lake can't dictate whether the offense runs or passes. However, having half of Judon's snaps focused on pass rushing is a concerning statistic. To add to that, 36% of his snaps were spent on run defense, leaving just 87 snaps attributed to dropping into coverage. And yes, we witnessed Judon dropping back far too often, which likely contributed to his disappointing season, where he managed only 5.5 sacks. It's worth noting that the Falcons traded a third-round draft pick for Judon, and the lack of motivation for a reunion between him and the team is telling. But here's where it gets interesting. After Raheem Morris took over as the defensive play caller, the Falcons' defense showed marked improvement. Points allowed dropped significantly, and the overall performance of the unit improved. In the world of the NFL, where every play counts and every decision is scrutinized, Judon's comments shed light on the complexities of defensive strategies and the impact of coaching changes. As we continue to follow this story, one thing is clear. The drama is far from over, and the implications for Judon and the Falcons could be significant. Stay tuned as we explore more about this evolving narrative and what it means for the future of both Judon and the Atlanta Falcons. As we delve deeper into the Falcons season, it's crucial to highlight the impact of coaching changes and how they shape the team's performance. After the bye week, the Falcons found themselves in a few overtime games, which naturally provided more opportunities for opponents to score. However, the statistics tell a compelling story. The rushing yards allowed by the Falcons dropped nearly 20 yards per game after the bye. This significant reduction in rushing yards was a game-changer. Raheem Morris attributed the increase in sacks to this newfound ability to stop the run on first and second downs, which created more favorable third-down situations for Atlanta's pass rushers to unleash their potential against opposing quarterbacks. Yet as we listen to Judon's reflections, it serves as a poignant reminder of a season that many consider wasted due to coaching missteps. There was enough talent on that roster to contend for a playoff spot. No one can convince me otherwise. The offense boasted playmakers at every turn, and the offensive line, at the very least, was average. On the defensive side, Grady Jarrett was squeezing out every last bit of his talent, while players like Caden Ellis were making impactful plays all over the field. Jesse Bates showcased Pro Bowl and All-Pro caliber skills, and A.J. Terrell had the best season of his career in recent years. Now, let's be clear, this wasn't a perfect defense. I'm not here to sugarcoat things, but it was far from the abysmal unit that the box score might suggest. Remember the excitement leading into the season when the Falcons added players like Simmons and Judon? Many of us thought this defense could be a sleeper pick in our fantasy football drafts. Unfortunately, that potential never materialized, and it wasn't due to a lack of talent. The root of the problem lay in poor coaching decisions. Jimmy Lake was clearly in over his head as an NFL defensive coordinator, and it was a misstep by Raheem Morris to bring in his friend from Los Angeles. This situation should have been treated with the seriousness it deserved, especially for someone stepping into their first head coaching role. As we reflect on this tumultuous season, it's evident that the Falcons had the pieces to succeed, but the coaching decisions ultimately held them back. The question now is, how will they move forward? What changes will be made to ensure that the talent on the roster is utilized effectively? The answers to these questions will shape the future of the franchise, and fans are eager to see how this drama unfolds. Stay tuned as we continue to explore the implications of this season and what lies ahead for the Atlanta Falcons. Reflecting on the coaching decisions made during the Falcons' tumultuous season, it's clear that the ramifications of those choices were significant. Raheem Morris, having not been an NFL head coach for quite some time, dating back to his tenure with the Buccaneers and a brief stint as an intern with the Falcons, should have sought out a seasoned defensive play caller. Instead, he opted for another friend, Jeff Albert, who, while possessing actual experience, still raises questions about the wisdom of such a choice. The blame here is twofold. First, Jimmy Lake must shoulder a significant portion of the responsibility for simply not being effective in his role. But we also have to hold Raheem Morris accountable for hiring someone ill-suited for such a critical position. To illustrate this point, let's draw a parallel to military leadership. When a battle isn't going well, do you direct your frustration at the president or the general? The answer is both. Take a lesson from history. During the Civil War, President Lincoln frequently replaced his generals when they failed to perform. This didn't absolve Lincoln of responsibility. He was still accountable for the choices he made in leadership. In one notable instance, the Union Army discovered the Confederacy's battle plans at a campfire and failed to act. Who bears the blame? Both the generals for their incompetence and Lincoln for appointing them. Eventually, Lincoln found capable leaders who turned the tide of the war, but the initial missteps had lasting consequences. Now, bringing it back to the Atlanta Falcons, the poor coaching decisions ultimately squandered what could have been a pivotal building block season. I didn't expect the Falcons to make a deep playoff run, but imagine the impact of a playoff appearance for young stars like Michael Penn, Drake London, and Bijan Robinson. That trio could have formed the backbone of the offense for the next decade, gaining invaluable playoff experience in their first few years in the league. Such an achievement would have been a significant win, setting the stage for a promising future heading into 2025. Instead, I view last year as a wasted opportunity. Raheem Morris is fortunate to have a second chance. Many coaches don't get that luxury. He must rectify the mistakes of the past, particularly the coaching malpractice that saw Judon dropping into coverage instead of wreaking havoc as a pass rusher. After all, the Falcons traded a third-round pick for a player meant to bolster their pass rush, not to play cornerback. Speaking of Judon, if you're watching this, Matt, I have a prediction for you. I believe you'll find a new team come August. This isn't a backhanded compliment. Given your age and recent injury, the buzz around you may not be as strong as it once was. However, there's still potential for a resurgence, and I'm eager to see where your journey takes you next. As we continue to analyze the Falcons' situation, the lessons learned from this past season will be crucial in shaping their future. The stakes are high, and the pressure is on to turn things around. Stay tuned as we explore what lies ahead for the Atlanta Falcons and their quest for redemption. As we look ahead to training camp, it's important to consider how injuries could impact the Falcons' roster. Last year, the team gave players a chance to prove themselves, and if they faltered, they turned to free agency. This could lead to a scenario where the Falcons sign Matthew Judon to a one-year, $4 million contract, providing him with an opportunity to revitalize his career. Now let's wrap up today's discussion with a pressing question. Will Raheem Morris be the coach to end the misery for Falcons fans? Can he steer Atlanta back to the top of the NFC South, into the postseason, and transform them into a team that opponents dread facing on Sundays? I'm not even asking if he can win a Super Bowl. Many great coaches have either never won or have only one championship to their name. The real question is whether Morris can restore the Falcons to relevancy. I want to believe he can, especially since he's well-liked within the organization. However, last season left some chilling moments that still haunt fans. Take, for instance, the infamous timeout debacle against Washington. That moment will stick with me, and it's not just because it happened once. It occurred at the end of both halves and arguably cost the Falcons the game and a shot at the postseason. Had they won that game, they would have entered the final week of the season with a chance to control their own destiny against the Giants and then the Panthers. Imagine the different mindset they would have had knowing that a win would secure their playoff spot. It's frustrating to think about, and I wish I had been bold enough at the Combine to ask Morris directly about his timeout management. It's one thing to critique from a distance, it's another to confront him face-to-face, surrounded by other reporters. But let's pivot back to the excitement of the upcoming season. If you're looking to gear up for the Falcons campaign, don't forget to check out chatports.com/lookies for your Pierce or Jalen Walker jerseys. The link is in the comments and description of today's video, so make sure to grab yours. Before we sign off, let's give a shout out to one of our viewers in the comments. Today we're giving 2 claps to Edward Prater. Thank you for tuning in, Edward. As we wrap up, I appreciate everyone for joining me today. I'll see you all tomorrow as we continue to explore the journey of the Atlanta Falcons and what lies ahead for this team. Stay tuned.